And what is up, everybody? Something's been really bugging me for the past couple weeks now. It's been ridiculous. Not 100% sure. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? Not really sure, but finding out about the passing of Kobe Bryant. I was never a Kobe Bryant fan. All right, when I was a teenager, it was basically because of him that I stopped watching professional basketball. Granted, I never really went out of my way for professional basketball. There was only certain people I liked to watch when somebody else had the game on, because I genuinely could have cared less. But it's like my NBA was the '92 Dream Team. It did not get better than that, ever. And Michael Jordan retired. Kobe Bryant apparently was a great player. Okay, not begrudging him that at all. I didn't necessarily like him as a person. Found out that he, the rape allegations, which is all they were, because this chick was clearly crazy. Already found and basically there was too much evidence against her that she was lying. But the fact that the sex was consensual doesn't change the fact that you cheated on your wife. So, already not digging him as a person. Got nothing to do with how I feel about him as a basketball player, because apparently he was a good basketball player too. I don't care about basketball. Never did. What's bothering me now is the argument for the greatest of all time. For a long time, Michael Jordan was considered the greatest of all time. And even Michael Jordan himself would say he's not the greatest. Granted, making it to the NBA Finals 6 times. And all 6 times winning the finals. No one's ever done that before. Or winning the finals 3 times in a row. No one's done that before. Or winning the finals 3 times in a row twice. Nobody's done that before. Okay, great. But he always accredited his team for it. And at the time, there really was no better team than the Chicago Bulls, in the 1990s. And once everybody left, like that was the only reason why he left the Bulls. He stayed on the Bulls because he could have gone anywhere. No offense, but he was the greatest player at his time. Any team would have been more than happy to buy him out. He stayed with the Bulls because that was the best team. A concept that's too foreign for LeBron James to understand. And after his second retirement, after Kobe came onto the scene, Kobe got drafted to the Lakers. Now, my thing, one of the reasons why I disliked Kobe in the beginning, and apparently it was misplaced, because I was under the impression he dropped out of high school. Like, oh yeah, he's already 18, he can do what he wants. It turns out he actually graduated high school, just didn't bother going to college. And nowadays, that's completely understandable. You got I hear stories of people all the time. They get record contracts, or even like one of the dumb actors from that god awful, worthless TV drama, One Tree Hill. God, that show sucked. But one of the dudes apparently, because these guys are teenagers on a high school basketball team, and apparently, he got offered a job to the NBA that he turned down so that he could do this stupid show. And his excuse was, the NBA will always be there. Well, guess what? Your stupid show is off the air. The NBA is not calling your dumb ass anymore. Why? Because the NBA isn't always going to be there. Record contracts aren't always going to be there. Your dumbass missed out on it for some other opportunity, this, that, the other. I feel no sympathy for you. I don't. So for Kobe Bryant to graduate from high school and start playing in the NBA, rather than waste time going to college, wear himself out playing college basketball and possibly injuring himself during college basketball, to where now the NBA is like, well, he's hurt, we can't take him anymore. Happens all the time. The only person I know that the pros were still waiting for him was Bo Jackson. That's it. He freaking he got screwed out of playing college sports, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are like, no, come visit with us. No, it's perfectly fine. The minute the NCAA found out, if you're in talks with a professional team, therefore you are disqualified from college sports. Couldn't play baseball, despite the fact that it was a football team. You got, and of course after that happened, Tampa's like, oh yeah, we're gonna draft Bo Jackson. He may as well have just flipped him off and then went to play baseball for the Kansas City Royals. And then the LA Raiders at the time asked, yo, you still interested in playing football? Because, well, granted it was the LA Raiders, so they needed all the help they could get. And he was, it's a shame that he never won a championship and never set any records, aside from being like the first professional athlete to be a professional athlete in 2 different sports. And, he was, immensely talented, this, that, the other, but that's besides the point. That's why this is a rant. But Kobe Bryant, I don't know how many times while he was on the Lakers, they went to the finals and lost. There's 2 different times that I know that have been mentioned that goes all the way to makes it all the way to the finals and loses. But he's got 5 championships. And let's see. Jordan's got 6, he's got 5. Okay? Pretty close to Jordan. They have this video where it's not even side by side. They're literally overlapping the footage of the movements of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. They're not virtually identical. They are literally identical. Because they were saying it's like the closest it comes to being like, to getting up to Michael Jordan, like being like Michael Jordan, was Kobe Bryant. Which is understandable, because Michael Jordan was everybody's favorite basketball player for a long time. Kobe, as far as a person, certain decisions he's made, this, that, the other, got nothing to do with me. But I'm, just whatever. Yeah, like there's always so much you could expect from somebody like that. I myself am not perfect. Okay. He clearly cheated on his wife. Probably did it more than once. Probably did it, more than one time. More than one time. After that rape case, that bogus rape case, him passing away is sad. You never want to hear that, because he wasn't a murderer. He wasn't a rapist. He wasn't wasn't a terrorist. Didn't kill a bunch of people or anything like that. So him passing, and then him passing with his daughter, which is real sad, especially when police found him holding on to his daughter, like trying to see if he could shield her from this helicopter crash, and holding on to her, saying like everything's gonna be all right. That is very, very sad. But I've gotten into this conversation before. Is how is it that LeBron James, they're trying to say that, oh yeah, now he's the greatest of all time, better than Jordan, despite the fact that he had to be in the NBA for almost twice as long without, and barely reaching the stats that Michael Jordan had. Or the fact that he's only got, 3 championships? Last time I checked, 6 is more than 3. I forget how many championships and how many teams has he played for. The only reason Jordan played for the Wizards was to build the team. That was it. He played on the Bulls because he said this is the best team. He played on the Wizards because they needed to build a team. Michael Jordan was always team-oriented. LeBron James gives to certain charities, and got nothing to do with how he is on the court. Someone said, "Oh yeah, that's why he's the greatest of all time because he supported one of his friends, during some serious crisis." It's like that constitutes being the greatest basketball player of all time, despite the fact that there's people with better stats than you. Now, Kobe has passed, and everybody's saying that Kobe is the greatest of all time. I'm still trying to figure out how that happened since Kobe has been retired for a couple years now, while they're still having the argument over Michael Jordan and LeBron James. So how is it that Kobe is all of a sudden the greatest of all time? His stats hadn't changed since he's been retired for over 2 years. So how the hell does this work, people? Seriously, it's the same thing with with people calling Muhammad Ali the greatest of all time, or even trying to say that Mayweather's the greatest of all time. There is no argument for Mayweather being the greatest of all time. You have absolutely no significant argument for being the greatest of all time. Meanwhile, you got somebody like Muhammad Ali. As great a boxer as he was very flashy and broke a lot of the rules, right? Still managed to pull off 18 title defenses. That was in his second reign, meaning he had already lost the title once. And for whatever reason, I can't find his. Wikipedia used to have his boxing record. I don't know what happened to it. I guess because they just want to say, oh yeah, he's had. I don't know why they count all the defensives collectively, especially after you've lost. Especially after you lost the title, and people try to say, oh yeah, the title he never lost the first time when he was stripped of it. He lost to Joe Frazier. In trying to regain the title he never lost. So right then and there, you lost the title. This, clearly, because especially if you go by the lineal heavyweight title, which there is no physical championship belt for. Yeah, Muhammad Ali lost the title to Joe Frazier, who lost it to George Foreman, who lost it to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, 18 defenses, loses it again, gets it back, loses it again. Three times he lost the belt. Versus Joe Louis, who defended the belt 25 times in 12 years. 25 times in 12 years. Longest reigning heavyweight champion. Most defenses in a single reign of any heavyweight champion. Somehow Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time. So we try to say, but he's a three-time world champion. Evander Holyfield's a 4-time world champion. And he's never in the talks for the greatest of all time. Lennox Lewis was the last undisputed champion. He wasn't considered the greatest of all time. Mike Tyson, with his 9 defenses, and him in his 7th defense, not only being the undisputed heavyweight champion, but also the lineal heavyweight becoming the lineal heavyweight champion and becoming the baddest man on the planet. Went over to Buster Douglas. Then it went to Holyfield. Then it went to Riddick Bowe, who then drops the WBC title. Therefore, no more undisputed champion. No more baddest man on the planet. Nobody talks about those guys. From Mike Tyson to Riddick Bowe, all 4 of them, all 4 of those guys, baddest man on the planet. I mean, that's what it takes, right? To be the undisputed champion as well as hold the lineal title. You are the baddest man on the planet, right? Nobody talks about that. Why is that? Because it wasn't as flashy, it wasn't as impressive, it wasn't as big a talker as Muhammad Ali was. Because if you want to go by civil rights, all Muhammad Ali did was dodge a draft, claiming that it was because of protests for his black skin. By this time, it was already the 60s, so civil rights was not. Well, it was a lot I want to say it was much closer to where we are now versus, because in World War II, Joe Louis, while he was world heavyweight champion, had no problem joining the army. Did a few exhibition fights. Yes, he got screwed over by the American government when it came to taxes. I'm not, that was messed up that happened. But while he was in the army, he saw the poor living conditions that the black soldiers were going through. And he would say something about it, and things started to change. Why? Because that's the champ. And everybody respected him. Everybody liked him. When it came down to either Hitler's boy, granted, Max Schmeling, despite the fact that he was being, basically sponsored by the Nazis, he was actually a Jewish sympathizer and actually hid Jews in his basement. So he himself was not a Nazi, despite the fact that he was the Nazi poster boy when it came to boxing. And when it came to Max Schmeling possibly regaining the world title and Joe Louis having to defend the title since winning it from James Braddock, especially after Joe Louis lost to Max Schmeling prior, this was a big deal. And guess what? All the white people in America were not concerned with the color of... They were not concerned with the color of Joe Louis's skin. Because despite him being black, he was still an American. And Max Schmeling was the Nazi poster boy. So that gave the Nazis a black guy, a well-deserved black guy at, unfortunately, Max Schmeling's expense, which, like I said, this man actually hid Jews in his basement. So, God rest him, hopefully. I don't even know if he's alive or not. This, that, the other. But what Joe Louis was able to do during his time in is not, as champion, and even his time in the military was, I would say it was far more significant than what Muhammad Ali did in his draft dodging. Because at that point, everything that Joe Louis helped with the black soldiers, black American soldiers, that stayed consistent up until civil rights movement, and yes, no more segregation, and integration and everything, which might have went along a little bit smoother if Muhammad Ali, actually served his country. I mean, he had no problem doing it for the Olympics. It's more or less the same thing, just less people get killed. That's exactly what it is. Like every Olympic Games is a world at war. Every Olympic Games is a world at war, because it's them trying to show, because it's every country trying to show that they are better. And then of course the fact that most countries outside the US especially that host the Olympic Games are cheating. And you had no problem representing the serving the United States in the Olympics. You could have done the same thing in the Army. They would have had you just doing USO tours. And if you didn't like the situation and how certain things were being done, you could have said something and changed it. You chose not to do that. Kobe Bryant, as far as where he was standing or anything like that, I don't know. Cause I never followed Kobe Bryant. All I know is he did not match up to Michael Jordan, who was considered the greatest of all time. He had better stats than LeBron James, but LeBron James was being considered the greatest of all time. And now, because Kobe's dead, they want to say that Kobe was the greatest of all time. It's bad enough you have these soulless idiots trying to sell Kobe Bryant merchandise for thousands of dollars. Serious, you seriously have no soul if this is what you're doing, because I remember back in the 90s where everybody was on the trading card craze, just like with the comic book craze, and people were like, oh yeah, I got Michael Jordan's rookie card. Well, everybody had Michael Jordan's rookie card. Everybody had everybody's rookie card. Everybody had everybody's whatever trading card that was supposed to be ultra rare, and everybody had it. So if everybody has it, it's not rare. And everybody held on to it thinking it was going to be worth money. And now because LeBron James is dead, I heard that one sold for $100,000. You need to be ashamed of yourself. If that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get momentum off of somebody's name because he's dead. I mean, you're a scumbag. Seriously. You're a freaking scumbag. Doing that. I mean, here's his selling his rookie card for $100,000. Is somebody actually paid for that? Seriously, man. I would have come up with the money just to punch the seller in the face for being that soulless, being that heartless. And now all of a sudden he's the greatest. Now all of a sudden he's the greatest of all time. Sad to hear that he died. My opinion of him still stands. That's something that people don't seem to understand. Like all of a sudden because he's dead, now I have to like the guy. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I'm not mad or anything like that. Is that him dying doesn't do anything for me emotionally. I'm sorry. That's about the only emotion. It's like my condolences, hopes and prayers to his to the surviving members of his family, his widow, his oldest daughter, especially the fact that she lost a daughter. They lost a daughter and a sister. You know, that's sad. It's very sad when you hear that. That doesn't affect me emotionally because I'm not a basketball fan. But to all of a sudden say that now he's the greatest, the greatest of all time, you're just pandering. You're seriously just pandering, and it's severely dishonest. It's severely dishonest when you talk about certain things like that, especially when you know better, especially when it's like he was never in, it was like everything was always, oh, LeBron James, despite the fact that Kobe had better stats than him. Everybody was talking about LeBron James like before Kobe retired. They were talking about LeBron James after Kobe retired, but now that Kobe's dead, now they want to talk about Kobe. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.